Good morning. I am Lisa Fagatner, Director of Member Programs and Services at NJBIA. On behalf of NJBIA, I would like to welcome everyone joining us today for the webcast entitled SMB CEOs, Decisions, Investments, and Growth Levers for 2019. Before we begin, I wanted to remind everyone that we are recording today's program. We ask that you please mute your lines during the presentation and unmute them if you have any questions during the Q&A session. Please feel free to use the chat window as well at the time during this morning's presentation to ask any question. And NJBIA staff will then read your question aloud. With that, I would like to introduce Joe Galvin, Chief Research Officer at Vistage, who will share the thoughts of more than 1,200 Vistage CEOs. Joe's mission is to continuously uncover, measure, and analyze the innovations and emerging trends that drive the performance of the most successful small and mid-sized businesses. Joe?
Thank you very much, and thank you for a few minutes of your time today and giving me the opportunity to share with you the research that we are doing, have been doing, and continue to do on the issues, topics, and decisions of small and mid-sized business CEOs. Today, I'm going to share with you results of a survey that we did in December of 2018, focused on the decisions, the investments, and the priorities of small and mid-sized business CEOs. My name is Joe Galvin. I'm the Chief Research Officer for Vistage, and I have the best job in the world because I get to study high-performing, high-integrity CEOs, learn what's important to them, learn their strategies and best practices, and then share that with our community of small and mid-sized business CEOs, business presidents, etc., to help them make better decisions. And that's effectively what we do at Vistage, is we help our CEOs become better leaders, make better decisions, and get better results. I invite you to connect with me on LinkedIn, to follow me on Twitter as I share our content freely on a daily basis, and look forward to sharing with you now the results of our survey and projections, CEO projections for 2019. Let's start with an understanding of what Vistage research is. We've been assigned and tasked to understand what are the key issues, top decisions, and major topics of small and mid-sized business CEOs. Our goal is to become the CEO's most trusted resource for research, data, and expert perspectives on the issues, topics, and decisions of business optimization and leadership enhancement. We want to provide our leaders with a level of insight, data, and expert perspectives that will help them prioritize what's most important to them and help them better understand the factors that are pushing their decisions forward and the environment that they're dealing with. So with your permission, I'd love to share with you some of the work that we've done in understanding the projections of our CEOs as they look ahead into 2019. It was just a year ago. In February that we were talking about this peak in optimism. We saw that our CEOs' optimism surged to a 10-year high. And I can remember being on stages talking to our members saying, yeah, 2018, those are the good old days. We'll look back and say, yeah, those were the good old days. Low interest rates, easy access to capital, everybody's growing. Yeah, those are the good old days. And we see in our index here, this is an index, the Vistage CEO Confidence Index is a survey we do 4 times a year. And since 2003, we've been tracking our index with the work of Dr. Richard Curtin at Michigan State University to understand the sentiments of our CEOs and where they think things are going. We then compare that to GDP, and I'll show you in a minute just how interesting that can be. But it was just a year ago. Everybody was fired up. We had seen the optimism coming into 2017 and the reduction in regulations. We're now gearing up for and expecting the tax cut to push through in 2018. A year ago, it was the good old days. It doesn't take long for things to change. Our confidence index has now fallen for 4 consecutive quarters. In fact, when you look at our confidence index and you track it over time, you'll see our confidence index is a lighter blue, GDP is the darker blue. And you'll see since the Great Recession, there have been 4 business cycles. And in each example, our confidence index, 3, 6, 9 months ahead of where GDP tracks. Except when you look at this last business cycle. Our confidence index would suggest, and our data supports, that we're on the backside of that growth cycle. You know, businesses, there's a growth cycle that we go through. We're on the backside of that growth cycle. What is about to catch up is GDP. The belief is built on the energy of the tax cuts that we've seen an artificial stimulus into the economy, and that we'll begin to see with the December numbers, and later with Q1 and Q2, we'll see the GDP begin to track and fall and begin to decay as it catches up to the confidence index. What's powerful about this is we're sitting today where we sat in Q2 of 2015. Our confidence index fell for 2 more quarters. Now, no one can predict where the bottom is. No one really understands. I mean, we can't predict business cycles, but what we can do is understand the factors that drive that. And as important as understanding we're coming into a slowing cycle is the importance of understanding when we're at the bottom. I think there's high confidence in our data and the data that I look at that we'll see a slowing in the second half of 2019 and on into 2020. And then when we get to the second half of 2020, we'll begin to see growth return. Whether this becomes a slowdown or a recession, time will tell. There are indicators that suggest at basically full employment, still historically low interest rates, low inflation, there's still a lot of tailwinds blowing in our economic sales. But the headwinds are out there as well. There's a real issue with talent and being able to find talent. That's forcing wages to increase. For folks that are in the trades and manufacturing and construction, wholesale trade, the tariffs are having a radical impact on their profitability. So there's headwinds and tailwinds. And that gets us to our theme for this year, which is confidence with caution. What we see in the responses from our members, from 1,267 CEOs across the traditional verticals that you would expect, we see high confidence in their business and their belief that their business will grow, and great concern or caution about the market they're doing it in. Let me show you what I mean. We asked this question, and just a footnote here, my job is not to answer questions. My job is to ask questions. My job is to get you to think differently. We had the privilege of having Jim Collins, author of Good to Great and Built to Last, speak at one of our events, and he said questions are better than answers. Why? Because they get you to think. Once you get the answers, you can go execute. Well, my job's not to answer questions. Only you can decide what's right for your organization. But what I am going to do is I'm going to ask you a series of questions. I'm going to ask you to pause and think about what that means for you. And then I'll show you data from our CEOs across the country and a special cut we did just on New Jersey, well, tri-state area folks, to catch and see what the feelings and sentiments are in this part of the world. So our first question is this. Do you plan to increase the total number of employees over the next 12 months? Are you looking to add headcount? Adding headcount is a sign of growth. And understand as well, this is growth on growth, meaning a majority of folks, over 70%, grew last year. The year before, 60%. This is growth on top of growth on top of growth. So are you planning on hiring in the next 12 months? Our data shows that 65% of our CEOs will be hiring over the next 12 months. That's almost 2/3 of the organizations out there are looking to add headcount. With our unemployment currently at 3.8, 3.9, maybe 4, we're effectively at full employment. Where are people going to find these people? In the tri-state area, New Jersey, 58% are going to be hiring incremental headcount in the year ahead. Now, if you pause and think about it, I hired last year, I hired the year before, where are these people coming from? Because let me guess, as you're looking to hire people, you're hiring the best people. You want to top grade your talent. Well, guess what? The top people already have jobs. They're working. Guess what would happen? Has anyone lost, stop and think about it. Has anyone lost a key employee over the last 6 or 9 months? Why did you lose them? Because they got recruited away to another job. It's because of this talent crisis, this talent shortage, that we're now seeing very aggressive hiring and very aggressive recruiting. And it's creating challenges. Even for organizations that are not increasing headcount, during the 60 minutes that we'll be together here through this webinar, someone in your office will get a phone call from a recruiter. Someone will get that call. And the question is, will they answer the phone or not? That's the break even, because once they cross that line, they're now open to be recruiting. And you're doing the same thing. This is all part of the challenge we see with hiring, and we'll talk about that in a minute, but it also points out the fact that 2/3 of our members are increasing headcount. That means growth. Let's ask this question. Do you plan to increase, maintain, or reduce your term's total fixed investments? Right, again, if you're investing, that means you believe you're going to grow. You're scaling up in terms of facilities. You might be hiring people, adding technology, whatever you're doing. You're investing in your business. And by the way, this is a great time to do it. Interest rates remain historically low. Access to capital is still readily available. People are looking to invest in businesses that want to grow. So are you increasing investments in your business? 43% of our members are increasing investments, 36% in Jersey. And when you add that on top of the fact that 45, 46% are remaining the same, it means that 90% of the folks in our space, small and mid-sized businesses, are maintaining or increasing investments in their company. Those are signs of growth. Those are not signs of a slowdown, and yet caution is out there. When we talk about caution, we ask this question. Compared to a year ago, so looking backwards, are things better, worse, or the same? From the economy, from your market, your local, where you are, better, worse, or the same? How would you answer that question? Here's what our data showed. Just 44% looking backwards think the economy has improved. That's a 20-point drop from where we were just a quarter ago. We're seeing a rapid deceleration, a rapid concern, growing caution as to the state of the markets going forward. There's tremendous pressure on tariffs if you're in that space and it affects you. We're seeing pressure in hiring in terms of boosting wages. So there's a great concern about where the economy is going, based on what our folks said, looking backwards. When we asked them, in fact, in New Jersey, only 36% believe that the economy will improve or has recently improved looking back over the last 6 to 9 months. If we now flip the lens and look forward, if you look ahead during the next 12 months, so looking ahead, do you think the economy will improve? Do you think the market where you function, where your business thrives, do you think that's going to get better, stay the same, or get worse? Only 14% nationally. And here in New Jersey, only 6% believe going forward that the economy will improve. What's powerful about this is that when I looked back at the data from a year ago, people looking forward a year ago said 45% thought it would get better. Now this year, looking backwards, only 44 agree. So that 45-44 works. What does that say about the 14 and 6? It suggests that we are moving into a slowdown. It reinforces our belief that the theme for this year is confidence with caution. Our CEOs are highly confident in their business. They're increasing investments. They're increasing employees. But they're greatly concerned about the economy and the market. So it's the economy, it's the policies, it's all those external factors that can and will conspire to challenge your business and your business growth. Let's go a little bit deeper, because when we look at our levers that comprise our index, and we're going to compare New Jersey to national numbers, when we look at the economy, it's 36% versus 44 in terms of looking backwards, and 6% and 14 looking forward. So there's great concern here on the economy. When we talk about prospects, 66% in New Jersey, 70% nationally, 2/3 expect to increase revenue. That's growth. That means I'm making more money than I did last year. And look, 50% compared to 61 nationally, but 50% increased profits. I'm not just generating more revenue, I'm making more money off of it. These are very healthy numbers. These are signs of confidence that our members, CEOs, believe that they're going to grow. We talk about expansion, 36% in Jersey versus 43 nationally. And 58% versus 65, we saw this, investments in workforce. What this suggests and reinforces is our belief it's confidence with caution. The organizations that we study, Vistage members, are highly confident in their business, but they're greatly concerned about the market going forward. And that's the foundation for the research that I want to share with you today, called CEO Projections for 2019. We want to focus on the decisions, the investments, and the priorities of our CEO communities, and then bring in expert perspectives to help understand what the implications of those are, as well as in the document we get into some slowdown strategies. So we just had to talk about our setup, which is confidence with caution, strong belief in the business, great concern in the economy. Next, we're going to look at key decisions. Now, I'd ask you to start thinking now, what are the key decisions that you're facing over the next 3, 6, 9 months? What are those decisions that really determine your business? Next, we're going to talk about investments. You know, it's hard to make decisions. It's harder still to reach for the wallet and write that check and spend that money. And we're going to understand where people are spending money. And then we'll review the key takeaways from the study and I'll share with you at the end how to get access to all this research, because we make it available to everyone, Vistage members and non-members alike. We want to make sure you have an understanding. Because what we're trying to do with Vistage research is we're trying to create this layer of understanding. There's the noise of the internet. There's the greatness of Google, where you can find everything about anything you want. And with that comes both the pros and the cons of what you might find. What we want to create is a layer of trust and respect that our members, and hopefully you as well, can look to as a resource that has no dog in the hunt, completely objective and credible, and only looking to help people make better decisions. And then we have access to an amazing community of experts that sit in our speaker community, our sponsor community, and our chairs, who all have access to expertise that we can help folks with. So, with your permission, I want to take a quick sidebar and talk about decision making. You know, it's hard to be a CEO. It's hard to be a business owner, a leader, a key executive, especially in a small or mid-sized business where you don't have the resources that you would have in a bigger company. It's hard to be a CEO because of all the decisions you have to make. In fact, we like to think that CEOs are in the business of making decisions. That's what CEOs do. That's what executives do. That's what leaders do. You make decisions all day, every day. Some small, trivial, just you make an instinct and you just go. Others, long-term strategic decisions, impact the fate and fortune of your business. And that's your job. That's the job of the leader, is to make those hard decisions. One of our chairs, a gentleman named Greg Buston in Dallas, is about to publish a book called How Leaders Choose. And he goes through 54 examples of how leaders throughout history came to and made great decisions. And the one that caught my mind was this concept of one, how do you make important decisions? How do you, facing some of the critical decisions that are ahead of you, how do you make those decisions? And one of those studies that I found fascinating was John F. Kennedy and the Cuban Missile Crisis. Just 9 months before, early in his presidency, he had made some terrible decisions in the Bay of Pigs. A total political and news, just a total nightmare. And now he's faced with Russians putting potentially nuclear missiles 90 miles away from the United States. Talk about a big decision. Not just a big decision, but a series of decisions, each decision with nuance onto it. And imagine the weight of this decision. Well, what Kennedy learned is he couldn't just rely on himself and his close circle. He expanded the number of people that he engaged with. He brought in his political leaders. He brought in his economic leaders, his cabinet. He brought in his military leaders. And he took all these perspectives. One of the great sidebars is he would take himself out of those discussions so they could talk freely in the room without thinking of saying things that they thought he might want to hear. But what he knew, and what all leaders knew, is that ultimately that decision resides with them. That ultimately the accountability for this decision was going to sit with him, and he knew this. Throughout this whole process, he maintained a sense of humor. In fact, he told the group assembled, he said, I hope you realize there's not enough room for all of us in the White House bunker. Talk about the importance of getting a key decision right. Well, I don't believe any of us are making decisions quite of this level, but it does beg the question of how do you make decisions? More importantly, how do you get to better decision making? How do you get to optimize decision making? And there's a whole bunch of really fabulous academic models about how people make decisions and cognitive bias and all that. We wanted to create a more simple model, but I think elegant in that it captures the essence of how most folks make decisions. And that is that I think decision making is a function of importance and complexity. Meaning the more important a decision is, the more complex it is, the more we put into it. You probably already made a half a dozen easy decisions today, right? Well, you can rely on your instincts for that. Send out an email, drop the call, tell someone what to do. That's not a big deal. It's when things get harder and become more important and more complex, we now apply our judgment. Here's what I think, here's what I've learned, here's my experience, here's the situational fluency of what I'm trying to accomplish. Right? We apply our judgment. And then when things get really complex and really important, and oh, by the way, really expensive, we now seek the perspectives of others. And the example I like to use, if you pause for a minute and just think back to when you bought your first home, right? You pull up to the curb, you get out of the car, and you know you're going to buy that house or not. That's your instinct. That's your curb appeal. Then judgment kicks in. Whoa, is it close to schools? Is a garage attached? What's the neighborhood like? Can I get to transportation? You start weighing all these factors. And then if you're like me, you look for help. I call my brother-in-law, Roger, who's a contractor. Hey, Roger, can you check out the roof? Is it going to hold? Am I have to replace the shingles? What about the furnace? Is that in good shape? Then I call my financial advisor, Gene. Gene, what's the right mortgage for me based on where I am and what I want to do? I take these expert perspectives. I then now add that to my judgment. And in that moment of truth, and maybe you can remember, when you're signing that contract, it's right here, it's your gut telling you that you've made a good decision. Now, we all know that everything can happen, right? Everything can happen once the decision is done. But making decisions with confidence, getting to optimize decision making is our concept of balancing your instincts with your judgment and the application of expert perspectives to make the best decision. What that takes us to then is our next concept is the Vistage decision model. And I lay these two out because it sets up our dialogue around how we look at the issues and topics. But our decision model is a model not of how to make decisions, but rather the decisions you have to make as a leader. It starts with you as a leader. How do you show up every day as a leader? How do you walk the halls? How do you engage with people? What are the attributes, the behaviors, and the competencies of the leader? And what are you doing to develop that in yourself? Next is a concept of leadership. What is the process that you use to lead? Talk about strategic planning. Do you have a formal process you go through, or you just kind of ham and egg it and throw it together? It's these processes, or I like to call the disciplines of leadership, that is a process that you follow in how you lead. And then, of course, there's the business that you're trying to drive and the elements of that business. When you now combine our concept of optimized decision making with the categories that we've developed through working with our chairs and our members, we now can capture what those areas, what those key decisions you have to make. Decisions about the people in your organization, your talent, the customers you engage with, your operations, both the nuances of your business and the infrastructure that supports it, the financials that drive it, how you lead, and then yourself as a leader. This framework, the Vistage decision model, is what we use to create common language, to organize our members' experience, and to begin to focus our research on the issues, topics, and decisions that our members tell us are most important. Okay, so Vistage research, that's what we live for. We live to understand what those issues, topics, and decisions are, and then apply research, data, and expert perspectives to that. And then to help our members make better decisions. And that's really what Vistage is all about, is helping CEOs become better leaders, make better decisions, and get better results. So with my little sidebar behind, let's jump into our first segment. Our first segment is the key decisions for 2019. And so I'd like to ask you to do is think about what are the major decisions you'll be making in 2019. What do you think those are? How would you answer this question? What do you think the top 10 topics are? Now again, this is over 3,000 responses from over 1,200 people. We asked them for 3 responses. What do you think the top answers would be? What do you think, what's your top decisions? Here you go, top 10. At the top of the list for the second year in a row is hiring, recruiting, and sourcing. Finding people, acquiring people, bringing them into your organization is at the top of our CEOs' decisions. Well, we saw that almost 2/3 of them are hiring people, and the year before, and the year before, and the year before, it creates this tremendous inflow, and by the way, there's also an outflow that goes with this under hiring, recruiting, and sourcing. When we take, when we take all of that information and we combine it with our decision model, we can now see how this falls out against the key categories of decisions. And talent comes out on the top of the list. Talent becomes the most important decision our CEOs say they're faced with. So, how do you win the talent war? There's clearly a war out there with full employment, with everyone hiring. Anyone who has basic skills, both social and professional, and can pass a drug test has a job. The best people have jobs. You have best people. What is keeping them with you? More importantly, how do you attract people to your world? So we ask this question. When do you plan to increase your firm's total number of employees? So we know that 2/3 are going to hire. When are they going to do it? Well, what this shows, 28% here in the first quarter, 48% in New Jersey over the 12 months. It means about half of the folks are hiring right now. And you figure the fact that we're at the end of February and Q2 is not down the path, it means that everybody's hiring. And that's the real challenge, is when everyone is hiring, the competition for workers is intense. And how you approach them and how you connect them, how you retain and develop them, have all changed in the significance as we now have got a full workforce. You know the old joke, a recession's when your neighbor loses his job, a depression's when you lose yours. I don't see anybody losing their jobs. In fact, what I see are more opportunities than ever for qualified, skilled employees at every level, from the factory floor to the corner office. So it leads to this next question. Now I'd ask you this question again to think about. If hiring workers has become more difficult, and everyone says that it has, what are you doing about it? What's changed? You can't just hang out a help wanted sign in the door anymore and expect people to show up. And oh, by the way, the .com recruiting sites are flooded with resumes. And quite frankly, I would suggest, someone who appears to have a high quality resume, if there's not a good backstory behind it, why are they in the job market right now? Why aren't they in one of those good jobs? Because everyone's looking for that talent. So in response, what are you doing if hiring workers has become more difficult? Here's what the survey says. Look at the top. It's developing the existing workforce. When I put in the white numbers, those are the New Jersey data points. But look at what the top answer is. It's developing your existing workforce. One of the key learnings that's coming out of our study and the analysis of the talent crisis, the talent war, is retention and development of the people that you have in place. It's the employees you have in place today who are driving your business, who are making your business happen. What we find, especially in small and mid-sized businesses, is that many of our business processes are built around the people who execute those processes. And as humans, they kind of figure out how to get it done. We're in a big company, it's purely about the process, and you can plug people in and out. What if you took one of your key employees out of your business process for customer fulfillment, for delivery, for content creation? What would happen to your business? Employee development, Keeping, motivating, retaining, and engaging your existing workforce has become the key strategy when it comes to hiring. Next is boosting wages. And you'll see here in Jersey, it's not as much as nationally, but we're seeing that you have to compete for wages. And those of you who might be hiring millennials, it's estimated, I guess, next year that millennials will comprise, be the largest largest segment of the workforce. If you're hiring millennials, it's not just the income, it's the environment. It's the culture they're coming into. Meaning of work, having purpose, has an expanded need in this group versus maybe the baby boomers that are the follow-on generation. So boosting wages is important, but it's not just money. In fact, I would suggest to you, if you're hiring someone who's had 3 jobs in 2 years and they're looking for the next money, you should know that you're getting what you're paying for. You're getting a mercenary. And that when the next phone call rings for the next higher amount, that person will go. So it's not just wages, but it's the balance of things that you can do. Adding employee benefits. We've known that healthcare is a major issue in small and mid-sized businesses, has been, will be for a long time. But it's the little things you can do. I was just up in Canada, which is a cold place to be in February. But perks, one of the things they do just to connect employees is they have a truck show up in the fall and they rotate everybody's summer tires to the winter tires. And it comes back in the spring and rotates them back, right? Well, one, it's a great retention tool because if you leave, you lose your tires. But this is an example of something that they are doing to build a culture, to reinforce the culture, to make it a place where people want to work. I'd also ask you to take a look at this data point. Increasing investment in equipment to automate tasks. Automation is growing everywhere. Look, nationally, it's over a third. Here in New Jersey, a little bit less than a third. But people are looking to automate tasks. We'll talk about artificial intelligence in a minute, but we're seeing automation come into more and more aspects of business. If a task is repetitive, if it can be done over and over, it can be automated. And we're starting to see that already. We've already seen that with some of the amazing technologies that come into place. My father worked at State Farm Insurance in Central Illinois. And he had a room like this full of accountants making entries into ledgers and using hand crank calculators. Today, that's one person sitting on a computer. This is how technology is automating the tasks. And we're seeing this in manufacturing, we're seeing it in construction, we're seeing it in financial services. We're seeing this move towards automation in all tasks. It's becoming a key strategy in this war on the talent war. Why? Because machines don't get sick, they don't take vacations, they don't leave, they just work 24/7, 365. We need to be thinking about where and how we can apply automation, not to replace people, but to free people up to do the creative, value-add, maybe customer-facing activities that require creativity and require context and intimate knowledge of the customer versus the repetition of doing a routine task. So I thought that was kind of interesting. The other thing is working employee, working remotely just below that, 32%, higher than the national average here in New Jersey. Right? Working remotely, technology has allowed us to move from this post-industrial check in, check out, what did you get done during your 8-hour shift, to work wherever, whenever, and however you want, because what we're measuring is output, not hours or attendance. It's a dynamic concept that we're seeing more and more traction take place in the workforce. So what are some of the new strategies? I'd said you can't just hang up a job wanted sign. You certainly can't just count on the .coms. So what are people doing? And these are just some examples that I've collected over the last 6 months working with people around the country. So ask this question: what new or different hiring strategies are working for you? And in a group situation, this is where we have a nice discussion about what people are doing. But let me share with you some of the stuff that I've gleaned out from some of these sessions. First is a referral bonus. If you're not offering a referral bonus, I would highly suggest and recommend you do that. Why? Because your employees will bring the best people to you, right? No one's going to bring in their buddy who's got a drinking and attendance problem. No one's going to bring in their brother-in-law who can't show up for work, right? They're only going to bring in people that are going to reflect positively on them and contribute to the work environment that they really enjoy. It starts to get to this concept of employee engagement. How engaged, how connected are the people that work for you, right? On the weekend, when they're at a party or they're at a social gathering, they're hanging out with family, what do they say about their work environment? Oh, I work for a great company, it's awesome, we're doing this, our managers, our leaders, it's great. Or is it, yeah, I got a job, I kind of show up and I do stuff and I leave. And it's this concept of employee engagement. And this is why referrals are so important, because if you can get your best employees to bring in people they think will contribute to your organization, that's how you'll grow. So we see referrals and applying a referral bonus is a strong way to reinforce your culture, reward your existing employees, and bring in the kind of people that will thrive in your environment, as opposed to someone random. And good people come from all places, but we tend to find that referrals do a much better job. Here's a crazy one. This came from a tech company out in California. They offer, as part of their hiring package, we'll give you a $500 vacation bonus. After you're here 6 months, you go to take vacation, here's $500. $500 to stay an extra night at the resort. Go have a nice meal or a better bottle of wine somewhere. These are the types of things that people are doing. One of the trends out there is unlimited vacation. You get to take all the vacation you want, right? As long as you get your job done. And what that's led to is the 24/7 lifestyle of always being on and never being able to check out for work. But that's another tactic that appeals to some types of folks if that's your culture. Here's another one that's really evolved, and that's this concept of interns. It's no longer getting your nephew a place to spend some hours in the summertime. Rather, interns, both for the interns and for the employees, have become a critical function in the job search. So we're starting to see college freshmen aggressively pursuing 3 different internships for the 3 summers they have, because they want to see different environments. And what we see on the hiring side is people not hiring 1 intern, but hiring 3. And not giving them silly tasks like make sure the coffee pots are full or stuff like that, but give them meaningful tasks, put them in situations that will test and challenge them, and use that as an evaluation. Because you'll find out if they fit in your culture, and they'll find out if they want to be part of your culture. So we see the interns moving from kind of a thing to do for your nephew in the summer to being a vibrant hiring strategy. Another powerful strategy we see is targeting local high school. A lot of the trades, a lot of the tech type skill sets, they don't teach those in the high schools anymore. So there's no place where people can go to really learn some of the skills of more of the blue collar working class. So we're seeing companies start to go and offer after school training programs. Offer programs where they can teach high school students the skills. They can get to know who these kids are and who may or may not be a good employee for them. And at the end of their high school, they're now trained and certified in a skill, and these organizations now have the pick of the litter for those people they want to bring in. You have to think about hiring as a long game, right? It's not the people you're trying to hire today. It's the people you want to hire in the second half of the year, next year, and the following year. Hiring is as much about your brand as marketing is. It's being able to radiate your brand, your culture, out into your community. And accessing working with a local high school is a great example of how small and mid-sized businesses are getting connected to their community and starting to touch that future pool of workers that's going to be so important to them. Targeted training programs. Here's a variation. Now working with local unions, local trade associations. The people that work for you, where were they and what were they doing and where do they hang out? It's the old adage, you want to fish where the fish are swimming. Well, where are the people that are going to work in your organization? Be they at a factory floor, corner office, or everything in between, where do you find them and how can you begin to pay it forward into that community? By doing a course, teaching a class, doing an after school or a program project, a 3-day skills training session on the weekend. What are you doing to contribute to the community, to build your brand and to identify potential workers? Or partnering with local junior colleges, it falls in the same bucket, right? Two-year degrees, 2-year trade degrees are powerful tools that can help identify the right workers to come in for you. Talent is clearly the top issue. It's the number one decision, and it is both the driving force and the inhibitor to growth that we see in our members. Because it all begins and ends with your people, right? 90% of your problems and 100% of your opportunities walk in the door every morning. And the question is, for you, what are you doing as a leader to ensure the culture and the environment that you've created, consciously or unconsciously, is one that is attracting the right people? Your culture is like your gravity. It's what holds your good people to your organization. It's what repels or rejects people you do hire who don't fit. And most importantly, it's what attracts the type of people that want to be part of your culture to your business. We see culture rising, especially in a pending slowdown in a hiring crisis. We see culture rising as a critical issue for CEOs and business leaders. So let's move off of talent, but I want to talk about what are the big battles? What are the big things that you need to win? Well, it starts with employee engagement, winning the hearts and minds of your employees. I asked a CEO once, how many people work for you? She said, about half. How many people work for you? How many people in your organization are giving discretionary effort versus how many people are leaving at 4:59? I used to call them the 4:59ers because at 4:59, they was gone, right? It's all about discretionary effort, and that's how you measure employee engagement. We see employee engagement becoming as important, if not more important, than Net Promoter Score. Richard Branson says, if you take care of your people, they will take care of your customers. Employee development, improving performance, we saw that. It's about developing the people in your organization to keep them there first. It's a retention game before it's an acquisition game. You know, the old lament is, what if I train them and I leave? What if you don't train them and they stay? It's not just training them about their skills. It's not just training them about their job. It's life skills. It's collaboration. It's being all you can be. We see organizations taking employee development programs far beyond pure skill set into life and personal behavior and all the different things that you can do, that we can do to connect our employees to our business. Because again, in small and mid-sized business, that human element is just so important. Automate the repetition, rise of the machines. We're a long way from Skynet and Terminator and Schwarzenegger. But we're seeing more and more automation creep into the workforce. And you need to understand where and how automation, be that in a factory floor, in a manufacturing environment, or it might be an application, a business application that your knowledge workers can use to better manage information or to better share and collaborate. And then this concept of ABC, always be connecting. Recruiting, hiring, it's like brand. You always have to be projecting yourself into the market. You need to understand that we have had, and we will always have a shortage of talent. You will always be challenged to find workers, good quality workers. And again, reinforce. That means keep the good workers you have and create an aura about your business, about your company. Small, medium-sized businesses, they are always local. Sometimes regional, sometimes national, sometimes global. They're always local. Everybody knows everybody. Project a brand, project a culture that's going to attract the type of people you want to your organization. So, to help you with that, we've created a document in association with the National Center for the Middle Market out of The Ohio State University. It's a guide to talent planning. It's got a series of tools and frameworks developed by the NCMM folks, Tom Stewart, who's the leader of that organization, to help you go through a process for talent planning. Remember, I talked about leadership process, leadership disciplines before. What is your process for talent management? Well, we put together a few ideas for you here, and I'll show you how to get access to this, to make a conscious decision about how you're going to manage talent. So that's decisions. Decisions are about hiring. Let's now go and let's talk about major investments. What are some of the major investments? And again, if making a decision is hard, reaching for the wallet is harder. But delivering it, making it happen, is why we think leadership is the art of execution. It's the ability to get it done. How do you get it done? Well, we asked this question. What are the top 3 areas of your business you'll invest in? Where are you making investments? Where are you going to write the check for? What do you think the top 10 answers are? Technology. Technology is at the top of the list again this year. Think about technology. It is the change agent of our generation. It's changed every aspect, every bit of our personal, business, and professional lives. Technology is the change agent of our generation. When history looks back on technology, they'll equate its discovery as a human inflection point equal to the discovery of fire, the use of wind, internal combustion. All those things, technology has had that profound effect on humans. When we take our top 10 topics and put them through our text analytics engine, we see that a huge shift into operations. Well, we think that's reflective of the fact that our businesses are very confident. They're investing in their business, and you can see facilities, office building, growth, expansion, acquisition, equipment. These are all operational. I mean, your technology is your infrastructure that spans your business. But these are all elements that we see people investing in their business, growing their business on top of years of growth, which again creates this confidence with caution conundrum. But let's talk about technology for a minute, because when you think about technology, there's the physical equipment itself, there are the people, your IT staff and team and whoever you work with, but it's really the business applications that you use. It's the applications that manage the data, manage the workflow, manage the collaboration. So we asked this question: which business software, business applications, biz apps, do you expect to invest in over the next 12 months? So where are you spending money? Where are you spending money on business applications? Customer relationship management's at the top of the list. And we think that's because, especially as you move into a slowdown, being closer to customers helps. Having the customer at the core of everything you do is always a winning strategy. It's always about the customer and what they define as what's important to them. So it's not surprising that we see a CRM at the top of those packaged applications. There we go. I point out cybersecurity. We're going to talk about that in a second, but cybersecurity is becoming a more and more critical factor in your total technology plan. But what struck me was this, was that 78% of the respondents, we didn't have this data for Jersey, but 78% of the respondents are going to be making an investment in a business application, right? That means they're going to be spending money to buy a technology to make it work. It's technology that drives what we do. We wanted to go a little bit deeper. We wanted to look ahead. And so we asked this question on advanced technology. We asked, which of the following advanced technologies do you feel will have an impact on your business? Not that you're doing, not that you're investing in, but which of these technologies will have an impact on your business? And we see connected devices, the Internet of Things, IoT, far and away at the top. And we believe the driver for that is in manufacturing, construction, and other verticals like that. They're applying sensors, advanced sensors onto legacy equipment. So as opposed to buying a new machine that's got all new sensors, they're able to add sensors to their existing equipment and get more life out of that product while still reaping the benefits of what advanced data can bring. But what we wanted to dig into, notice 37% said none of this is going to affect me. What we wanted to dig into was artificial intelligence. And the reason we chose that is that so many of our members and chairs said, what's up with artificial intelligence? Where is that? Well, artificial intelligence is kind of like CRM and other buzzwords, and that it's reached that pinnacle of everybody uses AI. It's almost like you can't watch a show on television anymore. You don't have some commercial talking about how they use AI for this or AI for that. And there's a zillion definitions. My definition of artificial intelligence is this. Artificial intelligence is neither artificial nor intelligence. Rather, it's big, massive, ludicrous piles of data being processed by massively powerful computers, all driven by the question, the algorithm, right? How do I ask a question that's going to leverage this massive pile of data and these massively powerful computers? AI is in your future. Probably not today, maybe not tomorrow, but it is in your future. And that's what we wanted to understand is, what are people really doing? One of my curiosities was, what are people actually doing in our space with artificial intelligence? And what we found, A, is only 247 out of this was 1,500 plus responses, so a small fraction are using it. But what they're doing, again, is they're connecting it to business operations, to their manufacturing, their throughput, adding sensors, Internet of Things, that type of stuff, and customer engagement. And again, just a small fraction are doing this right now. So our intent here was not to promote or sell AI, but rather to help you understand that better. We've created a research report to help you with that. We want to understand, what are the fundamentals? What's that concept of AI, right? What I want to see is who's really doing something with AI. Show me real world examples of people really doing stuff. And that's going to help me conceptualize what it might mean for me. And then what are the things you need to think about? What are the recommendations in terms of strategy, data, technology, and expertise where AI might come into play for you? There's no question AI is in our future. The benefits, both on a societal level as well as a business level, far outstrip, I believe, some of the concerns that go with that. But it also takes us to the other side of technology. And that is, imagine, if you would, for a minute, that this is what your screen looks like. That you don't have access to any information, no data, you can't collaborate, you can't communicate, and all those photos you've been collecting, they're all gone. Has anybody ever seen this? I've shown this, I share this when I present, and probably about half the time someone raises their hand and says, yeah, I've seen this. This is a Malibu ransomware. It demands Bitcoin today or double the amount the next day, and they don't blanking care what happens to this. Now, I was, I was sharing this at an event. A guy said, yeah, that happened to me 2 weeks ago. I said, what'd you do? He said, oh, I ignored it. He goes, and they hit me the next day for double the price. I paid it. He goes, but the good news is they have great customer service. They helped me get back online right away. Well, okay, so customers are important. We made that point earlier, even to hackers. But what would happen if you lost your data? Do you have customers? Do you have employees? Do you have financial data? What would you do if you lost all that? What would happen to your business? What would happen to your customers and your employees? Right? It's cyber. And we have to accept the fact that cyber is a clear and present danger to our business. Has your company been attacked in the last 12 months? When we did this study in April of last year, 24% said they had an attack. When we asked it in December, it's up to 27%. In New Jersey, 31% acknowledge having an attack. Well, there's a concept underneath this I call cyber shame. And that's people who've been attacked but don't want to admit it. They don't want to show the weakness. They don't want to show that they missed the beat here. No one wants to be that CEO that says, hey, everyone, look, I know we got hacked. The good news is only half of you have had tax returns filed on your behalf. Nobody wants to be that CEO. And yet, we see more and more organizations being hacked, losing their data, having to pay Bitcoin than having to pay to rebuild servers, to create a new backup strategy, to bring in consultants, to pay overtime. This will take your business down as sudden as a heart attack. So do you have a cyber strategy? How would you answer these questions? Do you have a cyber strategy that you share, that's updated and you share, right? Well, would you answer yes, we have a strategy that's vibrant? Yes, but it's not current and we haven't really updated it. No, but we're working on it. Or no, we don't have a strategy at all. How would you answer that question for your business? Here's the US, 43% says yes, they have a strategy. 17 and 16 say yes, we're working on it, no, we're working on it. And this is the scariest number I've seen. 25% have no cybersecurity strategy in place at all. And some of the comments are, oh, we're a small business, we're a mid-sized business, no one's going to care. That's not true. They care deeply. You might recall the Target hack of 3 or 4 years ago. 350, 400,000 customer IDs lost, credit card data, all that stuff. They got in through a small HVAC vendor deep down in their supply chain that the hackers got in and then worked their way up the supply chain to get into their data. It's estimated that half of the attacks that occur, people don't even know about. I mean, I could literally spend the rest of the day selling the cyber boogeyman and telling you stories of how people have been attacked and lost money, lost their business. Here in New Jersey, we see a greater level of awareness. 54% have an active strategy. Only 20 don't have a strategy. But again, what concerns me is this number. 46%. When you combine the not current, working on it, and don't have one, it means about half of the people in the great state of New Jersey are unprepared for a cyber attack. And I will assure you that it will happen. It's not an if, it's a when. And I realize this is not an uplifting, positive message of go forward and technology will make things great. Rather, you have to accept that you will spend 1 to 1.8% of your IT budget every year for the rest of your life on cybersecurity. It's that real. It's that potentially crushing to your business. So to help you with that, we've developed a cyber research report and a framework for security. It starts with people. It's people. Your people are the ones who click on a bad attachment. When the DNC was hacked by the Russians, when the DNC was hacked in the election, they got in through someone who clicked on an attachment and now opened up their entire system. It's a process issue. You know those annoying updates you get all the time to update your phone or update your computer? 80% of that are security fixes, where they found a hole in the security and it's a patch. And of course there's the technology, there's the barriers that you must put in place. I presented this last week and someone said, yeah, they get hit 200 to 300 times a day. People pinging their firewall, testing their security, trying to find a vulnerability to get in. It is happening right now. While we're speaking, someone is trying to penetrate your organization and your data. And if you've got customer data, employee data, or financial data, they're coming for it. So this is why we created our report. Again, I invite you to download this. Understand where you are. Create a layered defense. And then call an expert. I'm assuming you work with a lawyer for legal matters. You got a doctor for health. You got an accountant to count numbers. Get a cyber expert. It's moving that quick and it's that complex. And by the way, it's that important to your business. I'm willing to bet the last time you got in your car and drove to some event, you wore a seatbelt. Why? It's not because you're going to hit something, but something might hit you. So please, this is a personal thing with me. You're now aware of the cyber threats, and only you can decide if that's something you're going to invest time and resources in, or you're going to gamble and go forward. So let's pull this together. Let's look at some of the key takeaways. We talked about confidence with caution. We got into the talent when we talked about the key decisions. We talked about technology, both the potential of AI and the threat of cyber. And now let's pull it together and let's see what our key takeaways are. Let's start with talent management, right? Employee development is the key to retention, engagement, and hiring. It's all about the culture you create and the people that work for you. And what are you doing to ensure that they are motivated to come to your organization the next day? We found our priorities here are retention and employee development. We ask our CEOs, what are your key priorities for talent? And retention and employee development was at the top of the list. Remember, before you hire that next person, ensure the people in your organization are engaged, motivated, and committed to your future and their future as part of your business. Here's some questions for you to think about. You know, maybe at a later point in time, jot these down or think about what it means. What development programs do you have in place? What are you doing to help your people get better? What are the goals, right? What potential do you see in investing in developing your people? Wanting them to be part of your organization because of what they get from it, not what they give to you. Let's go next. Let's talk about customer engagement. We didn't spend a lot of time talking about customers. We didn't have that much time. But one of the key things to think about as you move into a slowdown, right? And we strongly believe you're going to see a slowdown as we get into the middle of the second half of this year. Your existing customers are your first layer of defense. Focusing on your existing customers, ensuring you're meeting their needs. They might have to turn a few things down. Maybe their business is going slow. By protecting and defending your customers first, you create the foundation to protect your revenues, but it also gives you the opportunity when we hit bottom, or maybe one of your competitors goes sideways, to now pounce on a new customer and bring someone in. This is an inflection point, and if you're solid with your customers, it creates an opportunity. That's why it was interesting. We saw that customer service went from number 4 to number 1 last year to this year in terms of priorities. Customer service, taking care of your customers, having the customer at the core, is a foundation for how you ride out a slowdown, and more importantly, how you step on the accelerator first when we reach that bottom and growth comes again. Here's some questions to think about. What priority do you place on customer service? Every single person in your organization who touches a customer, either directly or indirectly, what have you done to develop them, to get them to understand your definition of customers? Do you measure customer satisfaction or net promoter score? If you had that, what do you do with it? If you don't have it, what would you do? And then what would you change? Really think about how you can get closer to your customers in anticipation of, through, and then on the other side of a slowdown, because you are about your customers, and it is always right to have the customer at the core of your thoughts. Let's talk about operations. We talked about technology, we talked about the promise and the pitfalls. But what we want to talk about, we have a report we'll be working on and coming out with the next couple of months on digital transformation. I think we've gone through this thing called a digital transition. Meaning this is how I used to work in paper, and now I've transitioned to Word or PowerPoint or Excel, right? Or maybe I've transitioned into an application. Transformation means I have changed how I work based on the technology. As opposed to trying to customize and configure technology, look at what that technology does and replicate those best practices. If you're buying a packaged business application, those vendors have been working for years to automate the best practices. Embrace those best practices. Transform how you work to a digital world versus trying to force a digital world to map to how you function as an analog human. Our priorities here, productivity and technology, it's no surprise. You come into a slowdown, you want to increase productivity, you need to get more with what you have. And it's the power of technology to transform our lives and our businesses that will drive you both tactically and strategically to a much better place. So here's some questions when you think about digital transformation. What processes are you considering or planning to automate? What training do you have in place? I was with a gentleman just yesterday who recently invested in a new marketing automation platform. He wanted to change how he reached out and connected not just to his existing customers, but to the marketplace. Well, he was disappointed because his person didn't embrace it. Well, what have you done to train them? It's easy to decide. It's easy to write a check. It's really hard to execute, to be able to capitalize on what this technology can do. And yet that's the foundation of what digital transformation is. And then who holds employees accountable for this? Who is ensuring that employees are not working how they worked, but they are in fact embracing these new processes, these advanced capabilities, and all the beautiful things that come from having a digitized work process, replacing our human analog processes of before. Let's talk about financial management. Again, we didn't have time to talk about this. We have a segment on it in the report. But as we go into a slowdown, the key is, do you have a deep understanding of your data? Do you have the right KPIs in place? Are you tracking the right metrics? Of course, cash is king. Cash, capital, investments. Right, we want to make sure we got our hands around that. But it's really your KPIs. It's your ability to understand in this business cycle when we're at the bottom, right? All boats rise and fall with the tide. But if you're the first one to see the tides going out, you'll get away from the dock first and you'll go out and get the fresh fish. So it's understanding where your bottom is and being in a position to step on that accelerator first. Priorities? No surprise. Financial management, capital cash management. And here's the question. What do you measure on a monthly basis? How tight and rigorous are your metrics and your process for measuring that? Do you have established leading indicators? What's your canary in the coal mine? What's your signal that you need to turn it down a little bit more? Or how will you know when to turn it up full blast? Are your KPIs aligned to strategy, right? And do you share this data with your staff? Are you transparent with data, or do you hoard the data for yourself? Last takeaway, leadership. Look at this, the CEO's ability to install and communicate a strong culture will provide performance in all economies. Culture is rising, employee engagement is rising. It's no surprise that culture and communication were the top priorities for our CEOs, top priorities for our leaders. It's your culture that's your gravity. So how would you describe your culture today? How would a brand new employee, someone who's been with you for a week or a month, how would they describe your culture? How about your longest tenured employee? What would they say about it? And what investments are you doing to ensure this happens? Are you consciously driving your culture, or are you letting your culture happen? Because by the way, while you're investing this time with me, your culture is what's happening in your business. When you're gone or when you're away, it's your culture that drives your business. How much effort, how much conscious effort do you put into your culture? Because that's turning out to be a huge factor in not just riding out the slowdown, but in long-term, predictable, sustainable growth. So, this is what we talked about today, and I'm so happy I had the chance to share this with you. We talked about confidence with caution, the major decisions, the key investments, some of the takeaways. As I said, my job's not to answer the questions. Only you can decide what's right for your business. You know the context, you know your goals. What we're focused on is what are high-performing, high-integrity, small and mid-sized business leaders doing about these key decisions, these top topics, and the big investments they're facing. And maybe you can learn from this. Like I said, I hope I gave you a chance to think a little bit. I hope I challenged your thinking. And maybe you had one new idea or one new concept to go forward, and then our time today was good. I referenced a lot of research here today. It's all available to you. We share it obviously with our members first, but once we do that, we make it available to all small and mid-sized business leaders. We are very much in the business of promoting great growth for small and mid-sized business leaders. That's what we're about. Our community believes in abundance. We're a community of lifelong learners, and we're always happy to share what we've done. Now let me show you where you can go and find this information. At vistage.com/research center, this is where you'll find all the content that we create from Vistage Research, as well as the great content that we curate from our speakers, our sponsors, our chairs, all the folks in our community, all wrapped around those big decisions, those key topics that we identified in the decision model. If you want to learn more about what Vistage is and how we help CEOs become better people and better leaders, go to vistage.com, and that's where you can click in that part right there up above to get to research and insights. But this is where you understand what our formula is, how working with a professional facilitator, the power of the group, how you share and engage through our experts, and then the community and the Vistage platform, all work to help our CEOs outperform others in the market by 2.2 times, right? And most importantly, I'd invite you to listen to some of our members. No one can do a better job of describing how Vistage and the community that you join and the group that you engage with has transformed not just businesses, but lives. We'd like to give you an opportunity to enjoy that, and again with our friends here at the New Jersey Business and Industry Association, we'll be holding an Experience Vistage event where you'll have a chance on April 26th to engage and learn a little bit more about what Vistage is, listen to a speaker, go through an issue process, and see how this model might work for you. Here's the linkage right here in terms of it's a bit.ly you can get to, and we'll be sharing more information with you in the future about how to access this. I invite you to come and join and get Experience Vistage and see if it might be the right tool to help you in your personal development, help you with your personal leadership, and really understand what are high-performing leaders doing when it comes to talent, to customers, to operations, and financials. My name is Joe Galvin. I have the privilege and pleasure of leading the Vistage Research, and it's been a pleasure to share with you today the research that we've done on projections, and look forward to sharing with you again in the future. So thank you very much for your time.
Thank you, Joe. I hope everyone enjoyed this webcast today. I would like to take this opportunity to thank Joe and Vistage for their partnership in today's program. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. Have a great day.